Hi, I'm Dr. Jane Roskams, and we're here at BrainMind's Day for NeuroArts, and I am extremely lucky to have next to me Chris Wilson of the Chris Wilson Foundation, but he is so much more than that. And I'm hoping that in the next little while we can get him to share pieces of his experience that relate to who he is right now, how he shares his art with the world, how he learned to do that, and what his hope is for the future through sharing the beauty of the world through his own gifts with us. So, welcome, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
Chris, you have an incredible story. We just heard some of that related to everybody who's here at the conference.
Yes.
But I'm wondering if in just a couple of minutes you could pinpoint the highlights of your journey, or lowlights of your journey, as the case may be, for people who are listening to this who will not have been able to see what you just shared with us.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here today. My story, I went to prison as a child. I was a teenager, protecting my family. My mom was in a really abusive relationship. And unfortunately, I lost some family members because of this abusive relationship. And then one day, these people came after me and I ended up taking a person's life. And I was sentenced to natural life in prison. And so when I went to prison, I was devastated. I was depressed. Like, how could I be thrown away? And I decided to come up with like a bucket list. I called it a master plan of like things I wanted to do with my life. And it was a way to prove that my life was redeemable. And so it was earn a high school diploma, earn a college degree, go to therapy, learn foreign languages, become a mentor, and hopefully have a chance to become free again and come home and start a business that helped people. And so I spent a significant amount of time of my life in prison studying and going to therapy, 16 and a half years exactly. And so I've been home now for 12 years. I've started several companies. I helped just under 300 people get jobs in Baltimore City. I've won awards. I went back to college. I earned more degrees. And I became an artist. And so I've been making art now for about 7 years, and I've been traveling the world, and I've been giving away 50% of the money that I make through my foundation, the Chris Wilson Foundation. And it's really helping the other Chris's and Christinas of the world, people who deserve a second chance. And that's through education, it's through trauma-informed therapy that we support people getting. And I just want to say finally that nothing special about me. I've made it this far because a handful of people saw my potential and they've mentored me and they helped me become the person that I am today. And so it's my mission in life to help other people do the same.
Well, I think I'd have to disagree on the there's nothing special about you part, because there are many people out there who, facing what you did at 17, would not have made the choices to make lemonade out of the lemons.
Yes.
So I'm very grateful that you did. You are definitely a lesson for many, many young people to learn.
Thank you.
I lived in Baltimore for a while.
Oh, wow.
Probably during that period of time. I lived right in the middle, or right on the edge of a black community.
Yeah.
I really got to have my eyes opened.
Yeah.
At that period of time. My son, who was 3 when we moved there, was the only white kid in his daycare.
Yeah.
And I got to see the world that I didn't get to experience, but I did get to see in a different way the world that many young boys growing up at that point in time had ahead of them. And a lot of them looked like what you dealt with.
Yes.
And a lot of them did not make the choices that you made when that hit.
Yeah.
So what was it, do you think, about the life you'd lived before that made you go, time to step up?
I think it was a combination of things. I think it was my family, my grandfather, and my mom. There were certain things that they instilled into me. My school teachers, my school counselors, and maybe a few other people. It was things that they said to me, like for example, my family gave me more chores to do. summertime, I couldn't play video games or eat sweets. I had to go to like camp and and play chess. And I used to be upset about this, but what they told me as I got older, said, we are preparing you for something in the future. And I didn't know what that was, but I know it now. And my grandfather, before he passed, he told me, he says, we didn't do all of this for you to dishonor our family's name. And so you have to pick up the torch and make us proud. And so I think about my family members. I think about the people who stay on me to keep me motivated to stay in the game. And I also think about people who are maybe following in my footsteps and want to turn their lives around. And so I need to be an example for them. Even when no one's watching, I need to do the right thing.
Fabulous. When you reached that stage in your life, when you were growing up, were you exposed to art? Was art a part of your life that you carried with you and it just came out later?
Yes. So just like any young kid, I scribbled and doodled and drew things growing up. And, I probably would say, no, I wasn't exposed, but some of my elementary school teachers recently reached out to me and said, you was drawing all the time and you won the art competition and you was doing this stuff, so it was always in you. I think it was something that was always there, but I never really planned to become an artist, but now I absolutely love it. And when I'm not painting, I'm thinking about it.
That is wonderful. So did any of that begin when you were behind bars at the same time as learning everything else?
So my mentor and cell buddy was a painter. He's an amazing painter. He transitioned, shame on him, to software. So like he's a software company now. He's doing great. But now, I used to mix his paint and I used to watch him work and he used to talk about art. And I wasn't really interested at the time. I was more interested in like learning how to speak Italian and getting through college. And so now I've become incredibly successful as an artist. And he jokingly says, you owe me 10% on every painting that you sell because you've been watching me the whole time. But I do credit him, Stephen, and influencing me in art because it's so powerful and it's so beautiful.
I think one of the things that really struck me when I read your story and heard you in there was, first of all, you're incredibly humble for somebody who's achieved everything that you've achieved.
Thank you.
And also obviously extremely resilient.
Yes.
Right? When was the first time in your growing up life or beyond where you realized the world did not treat people equally with respect to whether it's educational opportunities, art opportunities, or the penal system? Was there a moment where you suddenly went, hold on, there's me and there's the rest of the world, and how do I make a difference so that this doesn't overcome
absolutely.
who I am?
I think it was a time I was in prison and I was probably a year into working towards a degree in sociology. And one of our prerequisite classes was studying the civil rights movement. And I was reading about sit-ins and protests and people dressing up in their best outfits only to have food poured on their head, to be spit on and arrested. And they were doing these things just for equal rights, just to be treated like everyone else. And it was something that really struck me when I was away, is because here I was, someone who's been convicted of a felony, sentenced to life in prison, dishonored my family, and all these people before me have sacrificed so much to have rights that I just didn't understand. And so it gave me a new sense of purpose. And it's like, I won't dishonor my ancestors and the people who fought for equality. And so it gave me a sense of purpose in this life.
Yeah, awesome. I was really fortunate several years ago now to meet John Lewis. So I was called in to testify on the Flint, Michigan lead in the water hearing at Congress. And he was a huge proponent of calling, to action. And I was overcome. He was one of those heroes that also equally humble, right? He did what it took. And not every person who looks like him and looks like you steps up to the plate and does that in a way that really can change the world. So you said something, so thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
You said something in there when you were talking about part of what you want to do right now
Yes.
is show everybody of every kind how beautiful the world is.
Yes.
How do we do that when we're surrounded by so much strife and so much trauma and school shootings and
Yeah.
I'm the mom of a 16-year-old boy who looks more like you than me, and it's an uphill struggle for me to think of trying to change his perspective.
Yes.
But you have a plan here?
Yes.
You have a plan?
Yes.
Please share.
So I think one of the things that we really focus on through my foundation is helping people find that. I believe that everyone has a switch inside of them that once they find out where it is and they cut it on and they develop self-agency over their lives and truly believe that decisions that they make today can change their life tomorrow. And so we work really hard in helping people discover that. And oftentimes, in order to find that switch, there are things that we all have to do, things that we have to unpack. We have to be uncomfortable in certain moments. But I think these processes help people get to where they need to be. And I feel like we all have a purpose. Mm-hmm. And I think this is the right step in helping people determine what their purpose is in life. And I think it makes the world better when we wake up in the morning and we have something to do, somewhere to go, and we're needed. And so that's what I help people do.
I have seen some things online, but I certainly have not seen the whole portfolio of Chris Wilson's art. Do you, all this early life experience that clearly was incredibly stressful, trauma, and then you shift and all of a sudden you're incarcerated
Yes.
and isolated and kept away from all the people who care about you. Does that come through in your art?
Absolutely. I make a lot of art about system failures and the criminal justice system and personal relationships. I have a philosophy that any artist, any real artist, should only make art if they have something to say. And so I have a lot to say, and I do my best to transmit that, what I'm trying to say, through my art. And yeah, I mean, it's always about something.
Awesome. So we're sitting here at this point in history right now where we have this huge mental health crisis for
Yes.
young people. It's worse, statistically significantly worse, for young people who are brown and black or LGBTQIA+. There's no clear route through to making life instantly better for them.
Right.
And many of them live in places where school systems are stretched for resources, and the first thing to go is arts education.
Yes.
So how do we change this? I mean, it's very clear from today's conversations and research that some engagement in art can maybe reach that switch, make all the difference in self-esteem, how deeply you understand yourself. Do you have any great ideas for how we begin to be able to reach those young people who just haven't yet had that teacher or that grandfather or cellmate who can mix colors?
Yes.
And turn them into people who can realize where art lives in their life?
I'm not sure that I have the magic answer for that, but I will say it is unfortunate that arts programs are like the first to be cut from our schools. Young people, in my opinion, are the most creative, and I think it's unfortunate that a lot of schools and communities kind of wean that creativity out of our young people. I think we should encourage it and see what they can do with it. But I think what we can do now is, I think there is a movement of a lot of science and data that's supporting the benefits of art programs. Mm-hmm. And I think we as artists need to be champions of this data in this movement to show, our politicians and our parents in these communities the power of art and what it can do. I mean, you look back at history, the artists, and it's still this case today, but like the artists were celebrated. We were the truth tellers, and we need our artists.
We do have truth tellers. There are people, obviously you're a visual artist.
Yes.
There are definitely people in the Black community who have incredible reach through their music, not always necessarily appreciated by people beyond that community. I think we've got a long way to go to really get people to tap in, of all kinds, to tap in to understand the importance of music and dance and visual art and sculpture and every other form of personal self-expression. If you could dream of a world where that level playing field was built, what would it look like? Tricky question, but
that is a tricky question.
It's a finishing question. What would it look like?
This
Dream it,
may
Chris
sound
Wilson.
crazy, but like I would make us all one color though. I don't really believe in racism. I think it's stupid. And maybe like I know this sounds crazy, but like maybe like we were all just like blue. And we probably find a reason to dislike something about us, but just I believe like racism is really hurting us as a society. And I think a lot of stuff in our society would be better if we learn how to just love each other regardless of our skin color. That might sound crazy, but like that's what I think would really like change. So if I had a genie, I would just be like, let's end racism.
That would be wonderful, and often the best way that we share our love of other people is through art.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I share that same wish. I think it might be a while.
Yeah, it's going to be a while, long time.
There's always going to be people who do not agree with that.
Yes.
I saw this great image of 3 eggs, one white, one like cappuccino color, one brown, each cracked with exactly the same egg inside.
Right.
It was this, it speaks to what you were just saying. It was like a really beautiful visual that many people are gonna have a hard time
I agree.
agreeing with, but it was a piece of art. Whether people will accept that or not, I don't know. So, thank you for at least idealizing
Yes.
that could happen, and we're going to wrap up here. I'd like to thank Chris and the whole panel for being part of BrainMind and really helping us begin to understand how all of us have experience and art to bring to the table. And maybe there will be people who heard what you had to say here today.
I hope so.
And BrainMind will make a difference in taking that message out in the future.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.